Ladies and gentlemen, the Middle East war has just escalated. Iran has fired 180 ballistic missiles at Israel, and this is certainly a very serious provocation. And we shall see what happened. Most importantly, let's watch to the end to see my analysis of how this would further go on. In my earlier video, I've actually warned that one of the worst case scenario is Iran attack Israel. Guess what? It has already happened, and in a major way. And oil price has already spiked. Let's watch on. My usual disclaimers. Let's go. In an interesting turn of event, Iran has launched a major missile attack on Israel. It just happened a few hours ago, and Iran said that the missiles were fired at Israel in response to the non-stop Israeli assassination of many of its allied leaders and their own leaders. So Iran fired at least 180 ballistic missiles into Israel as the regional conflict widens. So these missiles are unlike the previous attack where Iran launched about 300 drones, and these drones were slow-moving drones, right? This time around, these ballistic missiles are high-speed missiles, and I've seen quite a few videos of these missiles. They are very rapid in their speed and actually have landed in Israel. This is a screen grab from one of the videos. As you can see, it's not just one missile. It's a salvo or raining of missiles landing onto Israel's territory. And this is quite serious. Of course, Israel then counter some of these missiles with their infamous Iron Drone and hit quite a lot. And it's interesting to note that these missiles, as they go down, the Iron Dome didn't attempt to shoot out every one of them. The Iron Dome only shot down those that are at high risk of landing into densely populated area. So actually in those videos I've seen, and you should see some of them, many of these rockets actually land on Israel soil. So these 180 ballistic missiles that were launched, it was in two waves, right? Two waves of attack. And fortunately for Israel, there were no reported casualties. And I think it was largely because, number one, those missiles that could land onto populated areas were being shot down by Israel's Iron Dome system. And also, many of the civilians were one way ahead and hide in bomb-raid shelters and things like that. So this was Iran's largest ever attack on Israel. And as I said, there were no reported casualties. I called up a few Israeli friends. Everybody ran to their air raid shelter, and life seems to go on as normal. There is one casualty, but it's in West Bank, so that's not exactly in Israel land, and it was a Palestinian civilian. This is a major provocation on Israel by Iran. Well, after being attacked, the Israel Defense Force vowed to retaliate. So they promised to strike back after this major attack. And the actual words the spokesman used was, they will operate at a time and a place that they decide. And this message was sent straight from Israel to Iran after the attack. This also means that they probably will not strike immediately, but they'll choose a certain time, and I'll analyze it, what they're likely to do later. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel came out and openly say that Iran has made a big mistake and will pay. So this time around, there will be a retaliation by Israel. And this is actually what we're most afraid of. In an interesting turn of event, after firing 180 ballistic missiles at Israel, Iran actually said that, oh, we have concluded our attack on Israel. And that's the end of what we're going to do. Sounds quite familiar compared to the last one, I think in April, right? So they fired 300 drones and say, I'm done. This time around, they did the same thing, 580 missiles at Israel and say, I'm done, right? And to make matter more interesting, so this is Iranian president. And after firing 180 ballistic missiles at Israel, he quickly called on United Nations and tell United Nations to prevent further escalation in Middle East. That's very funny, right? I slap you, okay, and quickly run the police and tell me, make sure he don't retaliate. I don't know whether that's effective, but it certainly sounds pretty comical to me. To fire 80 missiles at Israel and expect Israel not to retaliate. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah, is now in hiding with extra security. And this is, of course, also know that his position is quite at risk. Senior Israeli officials are now calling for action against Iranian leadership. He said that we should attack, we should strike down the Ayatollah himself. It is right now a very high tension situation. Iran knows that they are also, likely to face a retaliation. They cannot not act because Hamas leadership has been wiped out. Gaza has been attacked. These are all Iranian supporters and allies. So we have a situation where Iran cannot don't react, but cannot react too much. So they decided they fired 180 missiles and say, that's all I'll do. And to United Nations say, okay, please stop them from attacking me and that kind of thing, right? It's a very difficult situation right now, I would say, in Middle East. And let's not be surprised, right? After Iran's attack on Israel, the much of the Middle East went up in celebration in Beirut, Gaza, and Tehran. So these people actually, felt that there's a chance for their arch enemy being attacked, and they're all celebrating. And this is something that is not going to have peace for a long time to come, in my personal opinion. So it's something that is deep seat rooted in Middle East so far for, I would say, hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years. It's not going to solve within a short time. Very few people actually notice it, but before the air raid siren was sound, that means before the rockets arrived, there were two gunmen in Tel Aviv in Israel that dismounted a tram and shot at passerby. So they killed 6 people before being shot down by security forces and an armed civilian. This attack is probably more tragic than the aerial attack. And we need to realize that the whole area is of high tension, and Israel faces enemies from everywhere. And again, right, this is where I need to state my position. I'm not going to sound my position whether I'm siding one side or the other. As I said before, when I side one side, the other side, people who support the other side get angry at me. When I said I don't side anybody, people also get angry at me. So I'm just reporting the situation, more importantly, providing a financial analysis to what can happen next. So this is where my fears from my earlier video that I've done came true. Many people said that, no, Mr. Loo, you're talking rubbish. Iran won't dare to fire, won't dare to attack Israel and things like that. And you just read some comments. Many people said, Mr. Loo, your analysis is wrong. Exactly what I said came true, right? So Iran attacked Israel. And as a result, the oil prices spiked up. And this is actually what we are most afraid of, oil prices. And because the whole Middle East is all about oil. And the oil prices in WTI has gone up by almost 4% to now $70. It was still hovering at $60+, and suddenly the attack it spiked up. If it stays at $70-ish, it's still okay. But as the tension rise, as more retaliation and counter retaliation happen, the oil prices could go out of control. And this is what we are most afraid of. So what could happen next? Now, it's difficult to tell, but let me give you my analysis what could happen next. Remember, I'm not a political analyst, but I have high interest in this area because it has got huge economic and stock market implications. So I watch these things very closely. So this is 2 scenarios that could happen, and it could be a hybrid of 2 and somewhere in between. But let's just say there are 2 possible scenarios. Scenario 1 is that this time around, Israel has to show Iran that they mean business. They will launch a serious aerial attack at Iran. Unlikely to march troops into Iran, but launch a serious aerial attack at Iran, possibly a high value target, like a military installation that is of significance, or even a nuclear reactor of some form. And I think that Iran has 1 or 2 nuclear reactors that's operating. The second thing they could do means that it could launch an aerial attack plus or just assassinate one of their military commanders or political leaders in Iran. If Israel choose one or both of these action, Iran will then forced to retaliate heavily, and then Israel will forced to retaliate again, and then it spirals out of control. I would just say that Israel under Prime Minister Netanyahu has a policy of retaliation disproportionately, right? You slap me, I stab you with one knife and that kind of thing. You stab me with a knife, I fire a rocket in your face, right? So that kind of thing is quite evident right now in Prime Minister Netanyahu's leadership, and this is a high risk environment. The second thing that could happen is what I call a de-escalating reaction. Israel read the signal of Iran that they don't really want to escalate. Okay, so Israel launched what I call a symbolic attack somewhere there is high significance but no military value or things like that, or won't attract a huge retaliation, and then Israel call it a victory, and then Iran will then boo at Israel, and then followed by nothing. And meanwhile, Israel continue its operation in Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and at Hamas in Gaza, and life continues. In my personal opinion, this time around, I think Iran has actually launched something quite serious. I don't think Israel is going to do a symbolic attack anymore. I think they'll do something more heavier and seriously, and then there's a high chance this thing will spiral, possibly out of control. Israel's reaction could be raining if US were to tell Israel, no, please, hold back. But in about 4 weeks' time or so, the US presidential election is coming. So nobody in US is interested in this event here, because President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris is more interested in their presidential election. So I don't think at this juncture, US have a mind share in this area. They have their own issues to handle. I personally think that there's a high chance of this thing spiral more out of control. My personal wish is the second scenario, with everybody hold back, but I don't think that will happen. It's my wish that will happen, but I don't think that will happen. So let's watch on, right? So this is definitely a major escalation in Middle East. There's a high risk of economic impact, like what we have seen in 1973 and so on. And this is a developing story. So stay tuned. Remember to hit like and subscribe. I will update you very closely as the story develops. And I'll see you whenever this thing develops, or I'll see you in a day or two in my usual video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you. Bye-bye.